Hey guys, what's up? Brandon here, and today you can see I got some more Tribes of Sin gameplay for you. I know, surprise, surprise. But no tutorial, no flag routes or anything today. Today is just some commentary, talking about some gameplay and some other topics that hopefully you will find of interest. And so let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's talk about some gameplay here. I'm using the Juggernaut class. This is my favorite heavy class, as you might know if you've watched some of my other videos. And this map is called Sunstar. This is one of the newer CTF maps in Tribes. And it's kind of small, and really it's a Juggernaut's paradise. And I say that for a few reasons. Firstly, that tower that you saw me on in the beginning is really great for Juggernauts because you can go up to the top and lob mortars at either base, really without even having to move. So being able to shell the enemy base and turn around and shell your own base, kind of switching between offensive and defensive strategy on the fly, is really useful. Really nice to be able to just sit there and basically hit almost anyone on the map if your arc is right. Now the other reason that I loved using the Juggernaut on this map is because of this complex underground architecture that these generator rooms have. So whether you're defending your own generator room or you're attacking the enemies, as I'm doing here, the Juggernaut is really well suited with its explosive weapons to take advantage of these tighter enclosed spaces. And so I don't always advocate this strategy of kind of ignoring both of the flags and just focusing on the generator, but on this map it can actually be pretty important because, unlike the other maps, the generator serves a special purpose on Sunstar, in that it enables this cylindrical force field that goes over the front and back of the flag stand. And so by keeping the enemy's generator down all game, you're actually helping out your flag cappers a lot because they can now run, instead of just side-to-side routes, they can also do those back-to-front routes that are faster, or front-to-back routes for those quick emergency grabs that you need sometimes. So anyway, that's enough gameplay talk for now. For a few minutes I want to talk about something that's not related directly to spin fusers and flag stands and generator rooms. I wanted to give you kind of a reintroduction of sorts. Because if you've subscribed to my channel over the past several months, you've probably seen a lot of Tribes-related content from me, and really not much else. And that hasn't been on purpose, it just so happens that Tribes is what I play the most these days, so I have a lot of gameplay footage and a lot of things to talk about in relation to Tribes. But if you go look on some of the older videos on my channel, I like playing a lot of different games. And I've posted things like Bad Company 2, Team Fortress 2, Quake, Black Ops, COD 4, Killing Floor. You know, I like a lot of different games, and that hasn't been as well represented on my channel as of late. So today I wanted to take an opportunity for some of the newer viewers or subscribers who have only seen my Tribes content, wanted to talk about who I am and kind of my history as a PC gamer. So as you should already know, my name is Brandon, I'm 23, and I live in Dallas, Texas. I work in IT consulting, and so I travel a lot for work, and that's why you typically only ever see me posting videos on the weekends. As a gamer, I've really been gaming for as long as I can remember. Back in the days of my Sega Genesis and my Game Gear, and I really got my PC gaming start with Doom 2 and my shareware copy of Duke Nukem 3D. And I remember reading the strategy guide for Doom 2 and memorizing all the cheat codes, most of which I still remember to this day. Now fast forward a couple of years to 1999, I would have been about 11 years old, and my cousin introduced me to an online-only first-person shooter called Star Siege Tribes. Now you have to keep in mind that this was at a time when pretty much everyone had like AOL dial-up, and every game that came out had a single-player component. So Tribes was doing something very different right from the start. And it was my first introduction to a lot of different facets of PC gaming, like modding, interacting with IRC channels, a lot of different things that at the time I didn't really understand, being so young. I just wanted to get in there and play the game. But I slowly started learning about all these things involved with PC gaming, and I just loved it. And I loved the idea that you could have a game that you would play where no two matches would ever be the same. And so ever since then, I've never really had the same desire to play single-player games, and I've only ever really focused on the multiplayer aspect of games since then. And so after a couple of years, Tribes 1 started to die down a little bit because Tribes 2 had been released, and I never really got that heavy into Tribes 2. But I started to move into other types of games, like Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and Team Fortress Classic, and the original Counter-Strike, which I think was version 1.3 at the time. And, you know, I was still a young kid in middle school, and I just remembered loving the idea of multiplayer gaming. It was just still such a new concept to me, and I just loved it. And so I remember distinctly getting my first headset, a Plantronics Audio 90, for Christmas one year, and I finally could talk to people using voice chat in Counter-Strike. And I think we had cable by this time, so it was actually like viable to use voice chat in game. And that was just another like watershed moment for me, to be able to interact with people using your voice rather than just having to talk over IRC or in-game chat. And it was around this time that I really started gaming exclusively on the PC. But it wasn't like I made some proclamation that I wasn't going to play my consoles anymore. It was just something that happened kind of naturally, because the consoles at that time couldn't provide that online multiplayer experience that I had come to crave. And so now, fast forward to 2003. I was a young high schooler at the time, and a game came out called Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. This was originally supposed to be, I believe, an expansion pack for Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which was a World War II themed shooter built upon the Quake engine. And so for whatever reason, they had problems with the single player aspect of the game, and Splash Damage, the developer, ended up releasing it for free as a free standalone game. And when I say free, I don't mean free to play like we see these days. I mean actually free, with no monetization scheme at all, just a free downloadable game where the only barrier to entry was having a PC that was capable of running it. And so that was a lot of fun. I played that for a couple of years and got really heavy into the community and kind of the competitive scene. But then I got swept up by MMOs. And so my first massively multiplayer addiction came with Star Wars Galaxies, and I think I got drawn so heavily into that game because it was unique in that it was kind of like Second Life meets the Star Wars IP. Unlike most other MMOs that are focused on weapons and armor and slaying the next monster, and really just revolve only around combat, Galaxies was unique in that people had professions. And so you had chefs making food, and dancers in the cantina, and droid engineers making droids, and just a lot of sort of real-life professions that people were filling in the game. And so you had a true economy and a social setting not too much unlike the real world. And so Galaxies had me sucked in. I was spending a lot of time on it. I was trying to get a Jedi back in the day. Absolutely had me wrapped around its finger. But after a few boneheaded decisions by Sony, who had developed the game, I ended up trying out World of Warcraft, much to the detriment of my social life. And so I hopped onto the World of Warcraft train pretty early in its life, I would say only a few months after it released. And I played that a ton throughout the rest of high school and even into college, and really off and on up until about a year ago. So I don't know if WoW is my favorite game of all time, but it's easily the one that I've logged the most time in. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of hours over the course of several years. But interspersed with the incredible amount of time I was spending on WoW, I did play some first-person shooters, and we're talking about games like the original Battlefield 1942, and the Desert Combat mod for that game, and the original Call of Duty, and these other games that, when you look back on it now, they have these storied franchises. They have a bunch of history, a lot of games, and they've been out for a long time, and you just think that they've always been there. But back then, these were brand new ideas, and it was games like Medal of Honor and Command & Conquer that really ruled the roost. But today, those franchises are just a shadow of what they once were. Whereas something like Call of Duty and World of Warcraft are huge, multi-billion-dollar franchises now. But you have to remember, even both of those games are less than a decade old. So as I sit here talking about it, it makes me pause and wonder, what's going to be the next World of Warcraft, the next Call of Duty, that maybe hasn't even come out yet? Just something interesting to think about. So anyway, that brings me to today, where I'm playing games like Tribes Ascend, and Blacklight Retribution, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and Super Monday Night Combat, and just too many games to even name. We really do have just a crazy selection to pick from these days on the PC, and so anyone that tells you that PC gaming is dying, that's just not true. The way I see it, with the rise of YouTube and live streaming and esports, PC gaming is better now than it has ever been. So if you love PC gaming as much as I do, you should come hang out with us over at kbmod.com. That stands for Keyboard Plus Mouse or Die, and it's a website and community that I helped found almost a year ago that is dedicated solely to the glory of PC gaming. So there you have it. That's my life story in a nutshell. If you enjoyed this video, I would sincerely appreciate it if you'd throw it a like, maybe a subscribe and a follow if you enjoy this type of content. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.